On August 16, 1942, the U.S. Navy's dirigible L-8 vanished with two experienced pilots, Lieutenant Ernest Cody and Ensign Charles Adams, on board while on a routine patrol off California's coast, sparking one of the most baffling mysteries of World War II. Explore the strange events and theories surrounding the disappearance, from possible submarine encounters to unexplained aerial phenomena. One of the most baffling enigmas of World War II began to unfold on the morning of August 16, 1942, when two U.S. naval pilots vanished without a trace from their airship, a dirigible, while on a routine patrol off the California coast. What could have driven two highly trained and seasoned military men to abandon their airworthy vessel in mid-air? This incident, shrouded in mystery, is a story of the so-called ghost blimp. Despite being one of the most documented conflicts in history, World War II still holds many secrets, with some events remaining largely unknown to the American public. Both Japanese and German naval forces conducted attacks near or on the U.S. mainland, primarily targeting American ships along the Atlantic and Pacific coastlines. A series of unusual events would later culminate in the unexplained disappearance of two U.S. blimp pilots. On December 7, 1941, a Japanese submarine surfaced and opened fire on the SS Cynthia Olsen, a U.S. Army lumber freighter, sinking it and killing all 35 crew members on board. Despite the ship's successful transmission of its final position, Japanese records claim the submarine's captain provided food to the surviving Americans in lifeboats, but none of the crew was ever found. Prior to the attack on Pearl Harbor, Japanese submarines were positioned near the harbor entrance to intercept American vessels. Later, 9 Japanese submarines were instructed to pursue and sink an American aircraft carrier and attack strategic points along the U.S. shoreline. Over the following week, Americans witnessed several Japanese attacks on merchant vessels near California's shores, resulting in the deaths of crew members and damage to ships. However, the Japanese ceased their coastal attacks due to fear of increasingly accurate American anti-submarine retaliations, with the only land target being the Elwood oil refinery near Santa Barbara. Amidst the uncertainty, the U.S. Navy proposed a lighter-than-air program for anti-submarine patrolling, equipping airships with depth bombs and machine guns. By August 1942, dirigible patrols had become common along California's coastline. On the morning of August 16th, a lone swimmer was startled to see a blimp emerging from the fog, flying low over the water before crashing into an embankment. Thousands watched as the crippled airship drifted over the San Francisco peninsula, eventually landing in Daly City. An immediate search ensued, but the crew was nowhere to be found. The airship, designated as L-8 or Love 8, had departed Treasure Island earlier that morning, piloted by 27-year-old Lieutenant Ernest Cody and 32-year-old Ensign Charles Adams, both skilled flyers. After an uneventful first hour and a half, the men radioed their position near the Farallon Islands, intending to investigate a suspicious oil slick. This was the last transmission received from the pilots. Crew members on nearby ships witnessed 2 smoke flares being dropped from the blimp, but despite watching the airship for over an hour, they saw no further signs of activity. The blimp continued to circle the location before heading back towards San Francisco. The following series of events is confusing, with multiple sightings reported, including one of the blimp flying over the Golden Gate Bridge at 10:49 a.m. under control. However, the exact movements of L-8 between 9 a.m. and 11:15 a.m. remain unclear, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions about the fate of the 2 pilots. As the blimp headed back toward Treasure Island, a nearby P-38 pilot might have spotted it nearing the Golden Gate Bridge around the same time, but the report lacks a specific timestamp. According to this account, the blimp was flying normally. If true, the next reported sighting of L-8 would be baffling. Kingfisher float planes, still searching along the blimp's planned route, were likely redirected to the bridge after the Clipper pilot's report. At 11 a.m., one of the Kingfisher pilots spotted the blimp, but it was nowhere near its expected location. Instead, it was rising through the overcast, disappearing into the clouds at nearly 2,000 feet. Given the weather conditions, the blimp's automated pressure release valves would have activated between 2,100 and 2,500 feet, causing it to descend after venting enough helium. However, this reported sighting is difficult to understand. The blimp seemed to have doubled back, now almost 15 miles southwest of the bridge, over the Pacific Ocean. The reported times and flight pattern changes are seemingly impossible, suggesting the blimp would have had to move at incredible speeds or be in two places at once. When returning from the Farallon Islands, the blimp's speed would have been around 20 miles per hour, a logical speed for observing the water below. However, to travel 15 miles southwest of the Golden Gate Bridge in under 10 minutes, the blimp would have needed to move at 85 to nearly 100 miles per hour, which is impossible. The blimp was later found with only 4 hours of fuel remaining, suggesting a substantial fuel dump, which is unusual unless the pilots needed to rise quickly. This could be explained by the loss of the 2 men on board, but eyewitness accounts contradict this notion, claiming to have seen men moving around inside the gondola even after the blimp was deflated and drifting offshore. Many theories have been proposed to explain the disappearance, including a man falling from the gondola, the pilot spotting an enemy submarine, or even abduction by unknown entities. However, none of these theories fully explain the strange movements of the airship and the conflicting eyewitness accounts. The mystery remains unsolved, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and speculation.